So I'm going to share with you how I clean my brushes. Now this is a brush that's been used to paint. See, it's full of paint. And so I first go into the reservoir of my brush caddy or basin, and it has the ribs on the bottom. And I just rub it in there until I think I've gotten the paint out. And I just rub it back and forth. And I want all the paint to make sure I don't have any left up in the ferrule here. So then I'm going to go in the clean water and I'm going to rinse it out. And then I have a white cloth. This is paper towels, but I also have old white t-shirts that I use. And I set my brush on it and I pull it and I make sure there's a tiny bit of red that was left on there. And you probably don't notice it, but I can see it. So I'm going to go back in, rinse, and pull my brush. And it's right at the ferrule that's happening. So I could do it a couple more times now, but I'm going to go into, this is my brush cleaner, Masters Brush Cleaner and Preserver. I've used a lot of different brush cleaners, and this one seems to work the best for me, and it's not that expensive. I link to it. I get mine from Amazon. I'm sure they have them at Hobby Lobby or Michael's or something. And you see how I got it worked in there really good. And then I'll go ahead and run it through my brush basin again. Now I like this particular one. There are smaller ones that only have like the ribbed, but I like this one because it also has the clean. And when I'm painting, I can get the most of the paint out, go in here and make sure it's really clean. So now I have no residue that I left on my brush, so I'm going to put clean water in it, and then I'm going to go in my brush soap and I'm just going to work it into my brush, and then I'm going to make sure it has a chisel edge, and then I'm going to dry it sitting flat like this, and that way no water. If you have it pointing up, water will go down inside the ferrule and expand the wood, and then make it where you don't have a chisel edge. And you want to keep the chisel edge. This brush is probably 2.5 years old. So from meticulous cleaning, that is how I make them last so long. It eventually will wear out and not hold a chisel edge, and then I keep it for doing different things. But see, this one, I don't know if you can notice, it doesn't keep a tight chisel edge like the other one does, but it is a well-worn brush. This one's probably 4 or 5 years old, and I can get it to hold a chisel edge for a little while, and a lot of my brush strokes I can go ahead and use it, but I'm going to go ahead and fill it full of the soap, pull it to a chisel edge, and let it dry. Now that won't fix it from not holding a tight chisel edge. So I can still do petal strokes, etc., but doing like a line or dragging a narrow like a stem, it won't work. It'll always widen out and be too fat. So that's just, it's not totally toast, but it is now limited in the ways that I can use it. But it's just because it's well used. It's probably, like I said, several years old, rather than just, this is my newest one, the one I showed you previously. And that is basically how I clean my brushes every time I paint. It doesn't take very long, you know, as long as you don't have that many brushes. And I usually use very few brushes. I don't have a wide array for different effects. I just learn how to use the flat. A liner is usually pretty good, and that's basically it. Sometimes I use a filbert, but it's not as often as I use these flats. And it's only if I want a special effect, like the rounded back leaves or whatever, that I use a filbert. And I'm just now learning to use rounds. Not learning to, but starting to enjoy using round brushes for the effect that they can create. So that's it. Keep your brushes clean.